What is up, everyone? It is that time. It is Mock Draft Monday, and I am joined by one of my favorite people, even though he's a Rams fan. Zach, you know him, you love him. He's Payo time. It's kind of, we've got to have him every year for Mock Draft Monday. One of the first people I always reach out to. Was super glad that we were able to connect and schedule it. Zach, my friend, how are you?
Joe, I'm doing quite well. I am excited to talk about the Rams. I'm excited to talk about the Cardinals. And I want to thank you because you invited me on this show, holds me accountable to actually do, I would say, semi-decent pre-draft research. and because you messaged me like 2 weeks ago, and I'll admit I had started, but anything beyond the first round, I'm like, oh, nah. But you helped me and encourage me and inspire me. Let's dive deep. Let's find out who are the Rams taking in the 5th round? Who are the Cardinals taking in the 7th round? Let's dive in, see if we can nail some of this. And plus, it's just fun learning about the new draft, class that's coming in and, influx of talent to the NFL as a whole.
Yeah, 100%. And that's one of the things I love about Mock Draft Monday. It's how I learn about the draft class, right? It's a learning process. We've got some folks saying, hey, we've got Robert Moore, who's happy to see you. Payo, good evening, gents. I have a question for Payo, so I'm sure he does. Chris Young, jumping into Mock Draft Monday and a wild Payo appears. It's super effective. I went Daniel Berry, sports highlight. I'm guessing this one of your buddies.
Yeah, Dan, he's awesome.
And that's my question for Payo. Who are you targeting with your first? He's going to show us because he's got a mock draft ready for the show. Awesome. And real quick, we have a new channel member, Classy Nasty. Thank you so much, Classy Nasty. What's up, Professor? I joined your cult. Appreciate that. And we all know that the sort of iconography, the imagery, the thing we worship here with this cult is the almighty chart, right? So if you are not currently worshiping the almighty chart or bowing down, you're doing it wrong. We've got Red Sea. I speak for all Cardinals fans here. Aaron Donald will not be missed. Amen to that. We got 2 gamers. TCR, love Mock Draft Mondays. Appreciate you so much being here. Thank you for the kind words. So I am excited. Listen, I love one of the things I really sincerely love about doing this is I get to meet really great people like Zach. I mean, we were chatting before about life and stuff, and behind the scenes, just really made some really great friends doing this, including Zach here, and always love having you with us. So let's get into a couple of things, just some news things that are going on around the league. Really one big news story. The biggest news story was not a player-related story, right? And that was that the NFL has banned the hip drop tackle, sources said. The competition committee was unanimous on it. Now, there's also the Players Association was against it, I think, because of fines and stuff, which there's a whole lot of kind of politics about that we won't get into necessarily. But, Payo, what's your thoughts on this rule change?
So this is not a hot take. This is anytime there's any kind of rule, I'd say subjective rule change like this, I get frustrated at the NFL because they're not changing how refs ref the game. That's not improving. Even though that's, in my opinion, that's what needs to be done to improve the quality of reffing in the NFL. I'm not totally against banning a certain type of tackle or something like that. But from my understanding, the hip drop tackle, sometimes like when you're a defender and you're tackling, and for anyone who's played tackle football before, you can coach yourself to, tackle properly. And I know I had a coach in high school that was really big into wrap tackle, where it's like, boom, boom, bring them down, use your body weight, right? Where if you're asking these people to change how they've been, tackling their whole lives, right? And already there's so much going against defenders. So in general, I wouldn't be so against this if there wasn't more accountability to the actual process of reffing. And with today's modern technology, I think there's just so much that could be done that this is not addressing. So that's kind of my opinion.
Yeah, this is a tough one because I know there's folks out there who kind of take that this very sort of old school, it's a rough sport and you're just turning it into flag football. I'm not one of those kinds of people. I am generally supportive of initiatives and changes that will bring about safer, more safety for the players. So I generally support those things. But I think you're right in terms of there's just been some issues with the officiating, and this is this just feels tricky and difficult to officiate, and so it's going to be interesting to see how consistently they're able to pull it off. I did see there was some clarification that it's the type of tackles where they fall on the leg, like dead weight on the leg of the person. So not all hip drop tackles fall under this, but that even makes it trickier, right?
Yeah.
To officiate.
And you're going to ask humans to figure this out.
Yeah. JJ Watt said belt and flags incoming, right? We got real quick. We got one of your folks, Silly Fun Guy.
Silly Fun Guy, one of the coolest names on the internet.
Nice. Hey y'all, what time is it? Payo time. Chris Young saying easy for owners to prove this one because it doesn't mean they have to spend money, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Young knows what's up.
Yeah. So one of the tweets that I'm a huge fan of Brett Coleman's work, right? And he tweeted out something that I kind of quote tweeted that I think is relevant for Cardinals fans and for really fans for other sports. He said, I'm telling you right now, we're going to see a huge increase in offensive targeting tight ends in the flats because this rule makes it extremely difficult for smaller DBs to get tight ends on the ground from any angle that is to the side or behind them. And obviously my kind of, response was Trey McBride monster seasoning loading. So that's going to be an interesting kind of thing, see what it means Trey McBride being an ascending tight end, but for any tight end, right? And offenses around the league, that's going to be interesting to see what it means for the strategy because coaches will take advantage of things like that.
Yep.
Real quick, let's say some of the other folks, we've got, U-Turds 106. I probably butchered that. I apologize. I think this is going to hurt the officiating more and help them, but that's my opinion. Ian Keller, is that my favorite Rams fan? I think it is. Ian, it's yours and mine, right? We got Rams House. Thanks for being here. What's up, TCR and PT? Hope you're doing well. Red Sea saying, I'd still like to know what the NFL's definition of a tackle is. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, this is tricky. Again, everyone has their opinions and their way of approaching it. Rams House hates the new hip drop rule. Again, I am in favor of things that are for player safety. I am not one of these old school, people who complain that we're making the game too soft. But you have to be pragmatic. And the question are they going to be able to effectively enforce this? Well, and is it going to make a difference? I don't know.
And so that's why, like I say, I would rather they address the actual process of officiating first before making a rule change like this.
Right. Or together, right?
Together, yeah.
You could do them, as co-requisites, but absolutely. David Renteria, what are your early division winners? Okay, it's interesting getting way ahead, but why don't we take a minute? Just because it's been asked, I'll let you go first, Payo. Why don't we have you rank how you think the division's going to finish, first through fourth this year?
Ooh, the NFC West, the mysterious NFC West. I'm saying the Rams are gonna win it. I'm saying they're gonna win it. Call me biased. I can eat it. That's cool. I really do like what the Rams are doing. I think they had a great season last year, and they were a couple pieces away from being a really competitive team. I do think that I think the Niners are due for some struggles. I do. I think that the Seahawks might be worse than what people think they're going to be for being like a middle of the road team to thing. So I'm going to go with, I think it'll be Rams. I'll stick the Niners at number 2. They still have a lot of talent there. And then I'll put, you know what? I think that I like what Gannon's doing. I'll put the Cardinals in that 3rd spot over the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks could really struggle this year.
Nice. I think it's going to be the 49ers win the division. I think until they prove otherwise, they've they've got a really good roster. So I think the Niners, I'm probably going to put the Rams second. And then I think the Cardinals, but I could see the Cardinals overtaking the Rams if they like exceed expectations and the Rams falter, because they have a little bit older roster, lost Aaron Donald, and I agree with the Seahawks are going to be at the bottom. You heard saying, I think Niners again, but I can definitely see the Rams winning it too. I just hope the Cardinals have a good season. Robert saying Niners going to have that Super Bowl hangover. Yeah. But this division, I hate to say this division isn't great right now. It used to be. Hopefully it will get back there, but it's taken a little bit of a downturn. But you know who else believes in the Cardinals? That is Kay Adams. And if you didn't catch this on Twitter, you should go check it out. Go follow her and check it out. But she gave like a nice 5-minute kind of discussion of why she thinks the Cardinals, she likes them more than other people do. And, I know Kyle Odegaard posted an article that talked about the Vegas lines and the win loss for the over under for the Cardinals and wins is 6.5, right? So Vegas thinks they're going to be between 6 and 7 wins. That's probably a fair number for what people are expecting from them and where their roster is at. I think the roster after the draft and after everything settles out is going to look much better. And I think they will be over that, but I get why that number's there. So, but okay. For Cardinals fans, the video from Kay on Twitter is definitely worth a watch. So definitely encourage you to check that out. A couple comments real quick. Let's see. Ian Keller saying depends if the Niners can stay healthy. Red Sea says Niners regression is coming, and when it finally gets here, it'll be drastic. Chris Young, I think NFC West is going to be a tight race. I could definitely see that. Rams house, I still haven't fully accepted Donald retiring. I think I'm still in the house stage. Cardinals fans have fully accepted Aaron Donald retiring. I
hope he comes back.
Yeah, I'm a no. Aaron Wallace, Payo. David Renteria. Honestly, Cardinals are a sleeper team, but I haven't seen a team that built through the draft. Cool, bro. Hi, Payo. All right, so Kay Adams had some positive things. Again, go check it out if you haven't already. So one of the things I like to do here, though, as we get kind of preparing for the draft, Zach, you talked about that. That one of the things you enjoyed about prepping for today is kind of diving a little more for the draft, and I absolutely love that. One of the things I do each week is I do a player profile, and just what I try to do is find a player that I think fits what the Cardinals are looking to do, someone that's potentially someone they might look to draft, and I try to avoid the day. It's certainly the first round players. Everyone's going to talk about them, so I try to go deeper dives. I try to go day 3 players. Sometimes I get into day 2 players. And I just try to do a mix of players at different positions that the Cardinals might be looking at. This year, I've done a couple interior or couple offensive linemen, did a safety / slot defensive back, and I'm going with another offensive player here, and I'm going with a running back. Now, James Conner, was great for the Cardinals. He's had some injury history. They've got some interesting running backs in the roster, but Amari DeMarcado was an undrafted free agent. They got Michael Carter, who they picked up on waivers from the Jets, who's an interesting guy. I think
that's a solid waiver pickup. Yeah,
absolutely, a speed back. They picked up DJ Dallas, who's more of a special teamer. But I think we could see the Cardinals draft a running back, to someone that they hope to become the next bell cow when, James Conner moves on or retires. So I wanted to go with the running back. And the guy I'm going with is actually a guy who Brett Coleman and EJ Snyder, the guys from Bootleg Podcast, they love this guy. So if you follow them, you've heard this name quite a bit. But his name is Isaac Guerendo from Louisville. I can count. No, it's not Blake Corum. I'm sorry. But it is Isaac Guerendo. He's from Louisville. Now he's 23 years old, so he's not, he's got a little bit of years on him, but as we have shown him in it, he doesn't have he still has some tread on the tires. He hasn't had a ton of carries in his time there, but he's 6'1", 225, a bigger back, kind of like James Conner. And I think he's probably an early day 3 pick, 4th, 5th round. Maybe he could go earlier than that. But Here's a couple things, and Ian's saying, sell me on this guy. All right, so here's my I'm going to sell you on him. First starters, the guys that Bootleg Podcast love him as a guy for a Shanahan type offense, which the Cardinals have, that wide zone, outside zone. The current offense is from that Shanahan school. So my first selling point for Guerrero is that the folks at the Bootleg Podcast love him for this kind of offense. Next selling point, though, let's look at his PFF grades. I always start there. Now, you see, he didn't have a ton of carries, 132 this last year for 810 yards, but his yards per average, 6.16 and 7, so limited carries. But like when you look at running backs, one of the things I like to look at is kind of their elusiveness rating, because, if that's something that talks about how well they avoid tackles, right? And how elusive they are. And that I've heard people with PFF who do deeper dives talk about that elusiveness thing is one of those things that translates to the next level, or if it's low, if it's not good, that's a concern. It's similar like with wide receivers. If their contested catch rate isn't good, that's a concern for the next level, right there. Mm-hmm. So he's got a good elusiveness rating. My understanding is that that's a similar sort of kind of rating that you look at, and he's grades really well. Now I get the level of competition is up and down. He's played some decent teams, Notre Dame, Hurricanes, but not necessarily playing Alabama on there. But the grades are solid. Right. Injury history. I don't know. That's a good question. I'd have to look at that. I don't know if there's a big injury history. I haven't heard about that, but that's a good question. But the next thing I want to look at is his athleticism. His RAS score is, wow, really good. 4.3340. I mean, you see it's 9.97. He's got everything except the bench press. So he's got a pretty full RAS kind of testing numbers here. His explosiveness grade, his speed, his agility are all from great to elite, good size. So this is a guy like build size wise. He's a bigger back, kind of like James Conner, but he's fast. James Conner isn't this fast. He's elusive. And he could be a really nice fit to draft and have him as part of the committee, right? And eventually maybe become that guy. So again, I think this is a really interesting running back to look at later, right? Yeah, Ian. So it looks like I've sold him enough that he says he looks small. So yeah. So this is the guy I'm looking at. There are other running backs I think are interesting too, but as a guy that you might be able to pull off in the 4th round potentially, right? Still, if anything, he can learn from Connor, right? Yeah. So absolutely. So that's the guy we're looking at. But what we're going to do now is the thing that we are really here for.
Mock drafts.
Mock Draft Monday.
Yeah.
Now, Payo, I'm going to let you go first because you're the guest.
Oh, you're so kind.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
And we're gonna start with the Rams, right?
Okay.
And we're gonna let you show us what you think the Rams are going to do.
Okay.
But before you get into this, I'm just gonna say, and I'm gonna if Gazornik from our Discord, Brian, if you're watching this now or later, I'm gonna totally steal your line because he said this in Discord earlier. Or how many versions did you have to sacrifice to get Joe Alt to fall to 19?
Okay, honestly, it was the first one.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, and I'll be upfront with you. That 19th pick, I am still in the belief the Rams are trading it. Mm-hmm. Whether they trade it for an established player or they trade back for more picks, they have 11, and plus they drafted 14 players last year. So I don't see a scenario where they trade back to accumulate a lot more picks just because they already have a lot. But maybe they trade up to get someone. A lot of Ram fans think that the Rams will pick a corner at 19, mm-hmm. which I could see happening. But if you look at the history of Les Snead, and especially in the McVay era, they draft and develop corners late. That's just kind of been their MO. That being said, they haven't had a first round pick, so we really don't know. I just think they've done so much work to the offensive line already last year and this year. They're going to move Steve Avila from guard to center.
Okay.
And he was a stud for them last year, like just phenomenal draft pick. They signed Jackson from Detroit to play guard. They re-signed Kevin Dotson to play right guard. Rob Havenstant, he's a mainstay there, the last remaining St. Louis Ram that still plays for the Rams. He'll be there on the right tackle position. They've tendered AJ Jackson, who played well for them at, I would say, more so than not well. He is a good left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an opportunity where they could draft someone like, and again, I don't expect Joe Alt to be there. Just in my mock draft when he dropped there, I'm going to take him. Okay.
Right. No, listen, I don't fault you. All right.
Oh no, I was like, okay, this is not realistic at all, but okay, I'll take it. I do believe that the Rams drafting, if they draft a tackle at 19, that is realistic to me.
Positionally, yeah.
I also just see that the way the Rams are right now, they're investing so much in the offense. They, especially with Aaron Donald retiring, that was like the biggest paycheck on their defense. And he restructured his contract to help the team out. Like he was just a class act going out that way. So I just think they like to put resources into offense. Their wide receiving core is really good, especially with re-signing Demarcus Robinson. Mm-hmm. So I'd kind of be surprised if they drafted a wide receiver early, maybe a tight end earlier than expected. But again, like they got Parkinson from Seattle in free agency. So them taking it. I've talked enough about the 19th pick, but I think if they don't trade it for something else, them taking an offensive tackle is very realistic there.
Yeah, Step and thinks the Rams are going to trade up. So
I could see that. I very much could see that, Step. Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't you real quick just walk us through your thinking on the picks. In brief, and kind of give us an idea what you're doing here.
So if you look at the Rams offense, a lot of the players they're going to be drafting are going to be to develop. There's so much of the offense that it is pretty ready to go based on the moves they've made in free agency, the players they've re-signed, and a lot of their draft picks that worked out last year. Also, McVay has drafted a running back in every draft, normally in the late rounds, but I know that Cardinal fans love him. Kyren Williams.
No, he loves the Cardinals.
Yeah.
He's feasting on us.
Yeah, I like to think that Aaron Donald passed the torch of being the Cardinal hunter over to Kyren Williams.
He did something.
Yeah. But so the Rams running back room, it looks pretty good, but I do expect McVay to draft a running back just because he seems to do that every single year. So I think primarily early, the Rams do need help on their D-line, especially with Aaron Donald retiring. They had 2 steals in Kobe Turner and Byron Young last year. Oh, sorry. And so I see a scenario where the Rams do draft a lot of defensive players earlier in the draft, especially on the edge. What I do like in terms of Braswell, I could maybe see him dropping a little bit farther than that than the second round, but I think he's good at Alabama. They're going to have to get someone to fill in the holes that Aaron Donald left. You're not going to find, the perfect replacement. Like he was a generational talent. Mm-hmm. So they're probably going to have to try and replace that production through a rotation. The Rams, they'll continue to, monitor the safety market and cornerback market, but those are two areas they need to address in this draft. I put Will Shipley as the token McVay running back here.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, again, from what you watch highlights of running backs in college, they're fun. They're fun to watch, college running backs. But we've also seen so many of these college running backs that their game does not translate well to the NFL. Shipley, though, does seem like someone who can be patient.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to compare him to James Conner, but like, you know how James Conner had just that incredible vision and the patience to go with it?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like Will Shipley's kind of that kind of running back.
Yeah.
So kind of moving along into the later parts of the draft. Again, I don't think wide receiver is a huge need for the Rams right now, but you do have to factor in the Rams special teams were horrible last year. They were like rated the 4th worst special teams unit in NFL history. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So getting guys, that play corner, wide receiver, running back, defensive backs that can also play on special teams, I think that's got to be a priority for this Rams team later on in the draft as well. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of where my thinking was along there, along with just picking up some interior line help. And I'll admit I only picked Joshua Carty because he is the top-rated kicker. I'm not convinced the Rams know what they're doing when it comes to kicker because last year was just so bad. So bad. And for the amount of money we spent on kickers last year, we should have just re-signed Matt Gay. And then if we would have had Matt Gay, we probably would have won at least 11, if not 12 games and competed for the division. And like we would have beaten the Bengals for sure. Probably would have beaten the Ravens in that game. And so the Rams got to figure their kicker situation. Ian, we do not. All the Rams kickers from last year are gone, so we'll see. But yeah, that was kind of my logic going into the Rams draft. I would love to know your thoughts.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm not a Rams fan, so I'm going to be really interested in seeing what you think when I show my mock draft. But obviously, the alt pick, if you get him there, you need to be really happy, right? But Ian thinks not bad. So, like in terms of the particular players, these are not a lot of players who show up on my mock drafts, but that doesn't mean that's not a bad thing because maybe I need to expand more. Mason Smith sometimes shows up. Braswell does show up a lot of mine as edge rusher that second tier of edge rushers. I think you got him nice and late there. I don't think he lands that. I don't think he's there at 52, but if he is, that's a steal also. So overall, good draft. Well, let me kind of show you my mock draft. I will admit I went with a theme on mine. Okay. And I want to see, Payo, my friend, if you can pick up on the theme. Are you ready?
Okay, let's see it.
That's FFFF for fantastic. Okay. Did you catch the theme?
You want them to do really bad?
Well, that's a given, but there's another theme here besides just wanting them to do badly. I'm going to be disappointed if you don't get it, my friend.
Like, is it just like making the horrible trade to Seattle and? No,
that's a cherry on top. That's
okay.
You're gonna feel bad if you don't get this.
Wait, is it something to do with like a tackle, a tight end, a tackle? I'm trying. I feel like.
Do you want me to tell you?
You can tell me, yeah.
Okay, these are all Canadian-born players.
You're hilarious. Oh, I did not know that.
These are all 4 players that are Canadian born.
Okay.
See, Payo, this is an act of love. I knew that my good friend from Canada would be joining me, and I wanted him to feel welcomed and amongst his tribe. Okay. So I surrounded you with the best that the best of the great up north has Ian Keller's.
You know,
Yeah.
You know what, Joe? I will say thank you for this. I would not mind seeing the Rams draft some Canadians. Maybe not this high.
You think it's a
I
little bit
can
of
tell
reach?
you, yeah, a little bit of reach. I still like. Do you know who Nathan Rourke is?
No.
So he's a quarterback. He's probably the best Canadian quarterback that's still playing in the NFL right now. He was with the Jags for a bit, but he's currently on the Patriots practice squad.
Okay.
But I'm like, I as a Canadian in me, there's this part of like, man, if Nathan O'Rourke can just at one point play for the Rams on like a practice squad, I'll be happy about that. But
right.
Yeah, I thank you for teaching me. These are Canadian players.
Yes.
However, I hope
one of them is in Arizona, right?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm hoping that maybe like in the 7th round they can get these guys.
Okay, that's fair. Well, I did do another mock.
Okay.
Ready. So I guess if I gotta be boring and gotta go chalk, here's my other mock, and I'm interested to see what you think here. All right.
Okay.
Starting at the top, defensive interior, like with Aaron Donald retiring, like I feel like you guys need some to shore up that a little bit. You've got some nice players there, but I at pick 19, I went with defense Byron Murphy the second, who was a lot of people think he'll be gone by then, so I thought that was a good spot for him, so he was there, so I grabbed him for you. I looked at your roster and felt like you needed help at safety.
Yep.
So I went with Tyler Nubin, one of the top safeties in the second round. I also felt like y'all were going to grab a running back for somewhere. Not you have a nice running back in Kyren Williams, but I thought adding to that, right? Adding to that room. So I went with Jalen Wright. I also saw tackle being something that you needed, but I didn't go as early as you did. And I didn't like some of the options that were there, but I went with Matt Goncalves. I don't know. I'm butchering it, but a tackle out of Pittsburgh in the 3rd round, someone you could maybe develop. Maybe he's not starting right away, but got you some help there. I thought you could use some depth at linebacker a little bit. I mean, not necessarily a starter, but just someone for some depth. So I got linebacker Notre Dame, Bertrand. Got you some tight end help with Ben Snott. I thought you needed shore that up a little bit. I wanted to go edge earlier. Let me start by saying that, because when I looked at your roster, you have a lot of edge rushers, but you don't have an elite edge rusher. Yeah. And I felt like you needed an elite one, but the way the draft fell, there wasn't an option I liked earlier. So I just went with some better players, and sometimes you just got to just kind of go that route. But I did get you Solomon Byrd, or an edge rusher, in the 6th round. Then another quarterback for some depth, Devonshire. Then you have your receiving room is top heavy and very good, but I thought maybe a kind of back of the roster kind of receiver to develop. So I got Joseph Sivas out of UTSA. I felt like you were going to need a backup center. Obviously, you talk about Avila's moving to center. But I went with someone that Dylan McMahon, who I profiled on here before, that I like as a potential Cardinals pick, has some really good athleticism, just needs to have some strength. But at this point in the 6th round, we're looking depth and developmental, right? So I thought, okay, get you a backup center. And then in 7th round, just kind of, at that point, you're just looking for whatever you can find. And I got you another interior defensive lineman to help out. Stephen Henn likes Sino and Cephas as good picks. Ian Keller and Clavis is raw. The year 2 could start. Robert Moore I was thinking exactly who I was thinking with Murphy. Okay. What are your thoughts as someone who follows the Rams on what I did here compared to the Canadian one?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a lot better than the all Canadian draft. I dare any NFL team to draft only Canadian players. If you want to upset your fan base, no.
Right.
I'll say this: I don't think it's crazy for them to go, early, especially like if a talent like Byron Young Murphy, was there early. Mm-hmm. This team does not. The Rams do not draft safeties and corners early, mm-hmm. And I would be shocked. I would be shocked at anything earlier than the third round for that. They did sign Cam Curl from the Commanders, which was a really good signing for the Rams. I like what the Rams are doing in their safety room. They probably need to add to it, but I'd be surprised if they did it that early. And same with the running back. I think just what they have in their running back room, unless there's a player they really want in there. They drafted Zach Evans last year, who honestly didn't get much playing. I think he maybe got 4 carries the whole season, but that he's someone you think the Rams would like to continue to develop. So them drafting, if they think there's a running back that they can bring in to add more competition to that running back room behind Kyron Williams, totally see that happening. So maybe Jalen Rice can play there. You know what? I like this. I think you did a pretty good job. You admitted drafting edge rusher a little bit later than you would have liked to. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But yeah, pretty good mock draft, Joe. Yeah.
Well, thanks. So it sounds like I got the positions right, just based on what Rams history is. They would probably be going in different rounds.
Probably, yeah. That's it's the same with like linebacker. Like I could see the Rams drafting linebackers in like the third round and beyond, but not in the first 2. And again, part of the trickiness of the Rams, they haven't had a first round pick since 2016.
Right.
So I really don't know where they're going to go with it.
They don't know what to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ian saying Jalen Wright with Karen would be tough to stop. So that's true. But Dave Ventura says, okay, now the Cardinals mocks. Right.
All right, let's get into it.
All right, so let's get into it. We're going to let you start again. Okay. So you're going to get us with your Cardinals. And here we go. What do you
Payo. So in this mock draft, okay, for the record, I think that the Cardinals haven't had enough Kyler Murray drama recently. It's been a while. He's come back from the injury, and the Cardinals social media team just isn't doing them dirty recently. So Drake May's there. Why not pick him? Let's do it. And then the Cardinals cannot draft and develop a wide receiver to save their lives. So just draft all of them.
Yeah, shotgun approach.
As many as you can. Note that Marvin Harrison Jr. was on the board at 4, but I intentionally did not pick him. But anyway, everyone watching, I am kidding. This is clearly a joke.
You're just getting back at me from my all-Canadian team. Now you've got the all-receiver team.
It's true. Yeah.
I think people are enjoying it. So Red Sea is going to puke at this.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I take back my comment that Payo was super effective. Heard of Larry Fitzgerald?
Okay. I've heard of Larry Fitzgerald, but since Larry Fitzgerald, who have the Cardinals drafted and developed, right?
I mean,
Christian Kirk? Oh,
he's all right.
He's not on the Cardinals anymore.
Yeah. But we drafted and developed him, so we just didn't pay him. Yeah, Payo just all right. So now it's time for Payo's real mock draft.
Okay, the real one here. I took this seriously. I actually really think that only situation that the Rams or that the Cardinals don't get Marvin Harrison Jr. is something weird happens with the top 3 picks, a trade or something like that. If he is on the board at 4, I think that the Cardinals, like, if you don't draft him, that's one of the things.
They're sprinting, right?
Yeah, like if that didn't happen and he goes on to have just this insane career, like Jonathan Gannon and company, like your job's on the line. Like especially if you. And I know that like the cool pick is like take a tackle or something like that. But yeah, like I don't unless there's something silly that happens, I think you're taking Marvin Harrison Jr. In looking at the Cardinals, I felt like last year the Cardinals struggled on offense because of just lack of identity. And part of that was Kyler Murray being injured and just kind of the challenge of having your franchise quarterback recovering from injury and then coming in late when the Cardinals season had kind of already fallen off the cliff. You had the fun, like Josh Dobbs beat the Cowboys, but like other than that, that's sort of the way it is. So I think they got to help Kyler Murray out by, addressing the offensive line. And then the Cardinals were, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Cardinals fans, but when I looked up your actual rankings on third down, and I'm a big believer in third down on both sides of the ball, last year the Cardinals were the worst team on defense on third down.
We were bad on defense across the board. I don't know if that, I can't confirm or deny what you're saying, but I don't doubt it.
Yeah, I was just looking at like team rankings.
Yeah.
So
sounds
you're
right.
Either the worst or like in that conversation. So I think that this is a defense that needs an influx of talent. Jonathan Gannon, he's known as a defensive head coach. So he's got to be able to put some kind of identity that, this team is able to, get off the field. So that's why I did put, a substantial amount of defensive players early, especially in the mid picks there. I like Trey McBride as a tight end, but I think you can never go wrong drafting a late tight end, taking a flyer on him. And yeah, I think that a draft like this, the Cardinals could, really find some diamonds in the rough. And, you have 11 picks, and the more and more I do draft research, I love it when my team is able to have an abundance of picks in a draft. And if you can hit on 3-4 of those players, especially in the later rounds, that can change a team's, fortune pretty quick.
100%.
So, yeah. What do you think?
Robert likes it. Solid B grade.
Oh yeah. Thanks, Robert.
All right. So here we go. Obviously love Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4. And as Dana said, if someone wants to offer us a super stupid trade, like crazy, like 4 first-round picks or something ridiculous like that, we'll listen, right? But
wait, can I just interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
And I asked you and the chat this: if they don't get a trade offer and they for some reason take someone else, like how ticked off are you if you pass on Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, if he's there and they trade, I'm not loving that. If they get okay, let me say it this way. If they can trade back and get a crazy, right, the Godfather trade, right?
Yeah.
And they can still get Rome Odunze, I'm okay.
Okay.
I love Rome Odunze. I know he's not Marvin Harrison Jr., but I really like him a lot. And if they get a Godfather trade, right, he's saying 6 picks in the first round, right? Yeah, Chris is with me on that. He's okay if still get a Doomsday, right? Mikey's saying no. If they don't trade, we better take Marvin. Like I will say this. Yeah, Ian's getting pitchforks and protesting. As long as it's a defensive player, I'm not upset at all. Mazzucca Felix wants defensive player. I will say this. There's no one I want to take up for other than Marvin Harrison Jr.
Okay.
Right. But if they can get an amazing trade back, I'm open to that, especially if we can still get Rome Odunze, but it's got to be a Godfather trade. Okay. Right. Because the argument for that is there's the argument that, hey, if you can get an amazing haul, you have to consider that when teams are trading for a quarterback. But the counter argument to that people have posed is the Cardinals already have a lot of draft capital, and they don't, take the guy at number 4 and you still have a ton of picks if you want to trade around or trade number 27, move back a bit and get some future first round picks. So I think there are arguments both ways. But I do hope we come up with Marvin Harrison Jr., but I'm not going to be rioting if we don't. If we trade back, I should say. Dana's saying if Cardinals don't like Marvin Harrison Jr., they better take a trade down because there's no one else worth a 4 yet. Robert saying the only trade worth taking is 3-way trade between Chargers and Vikings. I've seen some people doing that. We still get Marvin Harrison Jr., Vikings get the quarterback, Chargers get multiple first. So like if we can, yes, I think people have talked about like the idea that the Vikings trade up to the Chargers and then trade up to us, whether it's as a 3-player deal or 3-team deal to begin with, or it's 2 deals, either way. But if we can, move back a spot and still get him, that's amazing. Sep Hen saying trade with New York Giants, get a 6 for Dunze, and then next year's 1, right? Chris Young saying the gap between Harrison Dunze is not greater than 2+ other first-round picks. Aaron Robinson's in 3 first and a second this year, or Marvin Harrison Jr., right? So yeah, I think then Austin, there's no 3-way trades in the NFL, so it'd have to be 2 trades, right? That's what I kind of was thinking too. Mizaki Felix says if Arizona leaves the first round with a starting cornerback, a starting head pressure, or a starting defensive tackle, they've failed this year, in my opinion. I think that with that pick at 27, we're probably looking cornerback or edge. Probably, yeah. I think edge is actually more likely. So okay. It's Cardinals fans are a little torn on that one, right? Mike saying I'm okay with a trade back if we get King's ransom. Monty know how to run a draft, and that's that. I trust Monty to do a good job, right? So okay, Marvin Harrison Jr. Love that at 4, right? No one else I'm taking there. The only other thing I'm doing is trading back, or if he's gone before 4, I'm definitely trading back. At pick 27. I would have gone tackle before we signed Jonah Williams. Not that Jonah Williams is, the savior at tackle, but he's a starter and he's young enough. So we have Paris Johnson Jr. and Jonah Williams as our starting bookends. And I think because they signed him, I don't think they're going to go tackle early. I do think there's a good chance they go tackle on day 3. I think Monty, the way he's going to look at it, and this is kind of me pulling from the research I did for the Monty Austin Fort draft strategy, that is the basis for the almighty chart. Looking at how the Patriots did drafting offensive linemen, they would take offensive tackles all through the draft. And they would find, starting left tackles in the first round, but they would also draft a guy like Marcus Cannon, who was a starting right tackle on day 3, right? And I think because they've got 2 starting tackles and they have an abundance of needs on defense, as you articulated how bad the defense was, the pick 27, to me, that is prime real estate to go after a defensive position. When they have 2 starting tackles, I just don't see using a first-round pick on a tackle this year. I think they'll draft a tackle in day 3 that they might hope to develop as Jonah Williams' replacement or as the swing tackle of the future, but I wouldn't go tackle that early with that signing. I love Darius Robinson at 35. Edge is a need. So if I don't go edge at 27, I like going there at 35. I like Peyton Wilson at 66. I think they need I do think they need to get a really good linebacker. Like they signed a free agent, they've got some guys, but I would like to see them draft someone in the 2nd or 3rd round. So I love that. Now you've got Mason Smith, defensive line. I do like the player. I'll also speak to Jordan Jefferson. You've got a couple defensive linemen, and in general, as someone pointed out earlier, the interior defensive line was lacking, right? And Sep Hen said we had no interior defensive line last year. But the thing is, they've signed like 3 free agents at that position.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So for me, as much as I love the idea, I don't. They might take 1, but I don't think they'll take 2 just because they went so heavy in free agency there. None of the guys they drafted or signed were stars, but they did nonetheless get some guys. So I don't think they'll go 2 of them. So, Mason Smith, I like it. I don't know if they're going to do 2 of them though. Max Melton, cornerback. I like them getting a cornerback. I'm probably going corner earlier, but I could totally see them doing that. I think they went 3rd round last year. So I could see that. I love getting a tight end there to kind of back up and develop behind Trey McBride. So the Cade Silver pick, I love. I love getting a running back somewhere, so I like taking them later. I like that philosophy, but the almighty draft chart does say, if you look at it, like the Patriots liked taking running backs in the first 4 rounds.
Interesting. Yeah.
So round 3 is really the sweet spot for them. So I still went running back later than that, as a little bit of a spoiler, but I still like taking a running back, getting Gabriel Murphy edge, getting some more edge to help. I like that. Tyke Smith, I really like that. We have 2 really good safeties, but I think they need to draft a guy, because they sometimes do the 3, like a cover 3 or 3 deep, 3 shell, having that third guy. And also Buddha's, a little bit older. Maybe they want to develop someone to be his eventual replacement. So I like getting a safety. And then, we already talked about the defensive line. So overall, I like it. There's just a few things I do differently, but yeah, I do like it. Let me get a couple comments and then I'll let you kind of respond. Real quick, Dan Corey, thanks for being here. If Monty trades down any further than 6, then Monty should run out of town personally. I'd rather have. I think I still have Monty we trust, but I hope we don't trade that far back, because I would like to be able to keep get Roma Dunze. Aaron Robinson saying 27 is chop. Robinson or Brian Thomas would be awesome. Can you imagine K1 having 2 elite wide receivers on rookie contracts? That'd be something. Let's see. Then Ian Keller saying pick 27 needs to be cornerback or interior defensive line. Brian, what is up, my friend Brian? Thank you for being here. L15. Joe, it's been a while. Glad to be here. Thanks for being so awesome. All your hard work. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Really good dude who's always really thoughtful. I heard linebacker Steve Keim, right? Yeah. David McNiner, thanks for being here. Payo, Mr. Claus. Yep. What's good? Austin saying Troy Fotanu can play all 5 positions. Apparently, I would be down to draft him with the intent of move him into left tackle once we move on from Williams, or right tackle if we we'll see. But yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, but overall, I think you got a lot of the right positions that they needed. There's just a few little tweaks. So your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm glad you don't think my mock draft was a total mockery. Pun intended. And I'll just say this, and again, this is why I love doing collabs like this, because you offer a perspective on my team, and I offer a perspective on your team, that we're not in echo chambers, right?
Right.
And so you guys might not like to hear this, but I actually think this is the most important draft for Jonathan Gannon and sorry, your GM's name,
Monty Austinfort.
Yes, I can't pronounce his last name.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it, if they don't hit this draft, and I mean hit it, right? If they have another 5-6 win season, well, you're already on the hot seat again in today's NFL, right? And do you really want the Cardinals to go through another coaching hire? Do you really if your team is constantly going through a coaching carousel cycle of every 2 or 3 years, you're always looking for a new coach? Well, you're stuck in this eternal rebuild, right? Mm-hmm. And what is it about the Cardinals? I mean, a couple of years ago, remember when the Cardinals were on that 9-game winning streak, and everyone was like, man, the Cardinals are so good. Well, if they mess up this draft, the questions about Kyler Murray get escalated, Jonathan Gannon and your whole leadership. So I think that last year, in your first year of coaching, you had your franchise quarterback injured. I kind of feel like there was no pressure on the Cardinals. A lot of people thought they were going to be the worst team in the league coming into it, right? Mm-hmm. They weren't. They played competitive football. And I think for the most part, Cardinals fans were kind of giving them a pass of okay, this year's kind of a write-off, but next year we got to see improvement, right? So I'm on the mind, if the Cardinals aren't competing for a playoff berth at least, then the question marks are, and the campaign to find new leadership are going to start pretty quickly.
I agree that this is the most important draft for the Cardinals for this tenure of Particularly, I'm going to say Gannon, because I think Austin Fort will be around for a while. Coaches are, usually quicker to be gone, right? And Dave McNiner's asking how many picks. I say, well, they have two first-round picks this year, right? 4 and 27. But I agree that this is the most important draft because, like, year one is turning over the roster, and expectations are low. You're just trying to install culture and systems. Year two, you want to see improvement, but the expectations are still modest. Like you want to see improvement, but you're continuing to build the roster. Year three is where you need to see a team be competitive, and ideally, if you're doing your rebuild right, year three is when they make the playoffs. Even maybe a wild card, but they maybe they're a bubble playoff team, but they make the playoffs. And for that to happen, you can't be relying heavily on rookies in year three. So what I mean by that is, like, you need the players from last year's draft and this year's draft to get playing time. And by year three, so not this season, but 2025, the 2025 season, the guys that are drafting this year and the guys who drafted last year have to be hitting their stride, contributing, and have to have resulted in a good roster that can be competitive in year three. So looking at 2025 as the most important year, the pivotal year for Gannon, that is the 2025 is the make or break season for Jonathan Gannon, right? If they aren't borderline playoff team, if not playoff team, that's when he's on the hot seat. So this draft this year, because you have to give it time for those players to develop this is the draft with a ton of draft capital. Monty last year came in and had to work with the processes that were already in place. He's now had his process in place. So I actually, for all those reasons, agree this is the most important year draft-wise for Jonathan Gannon. So I think you're completely right on that.
Well, and even by extension, Kyler Murray, right? Like, he's getting paid franchise quarterback money. You need franchise quarterback results, right? Mm-hmm. And hopefully the Cardinals help him out this draft, investing in playmakers and in the O-line. And Marvin Harrison Jr. seems like he would really help Kyler Murray out. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I like, again, I just think if the Cardinals have another year where they go, 4 or 5 wins, maybe they win a couple of competitive games here and there that people didn't pick them to win. I don't think that's good enough. Like, I think they have to be competing for a playoff berth here, even in year two. And then because that will set up the true expectations for year three, as you say, which is the make or break year for Gannon.
I think, like, I look at the Lions rebuild, okay, because I think that is what they did is sort of the archetype for the rebuild, and it's a 3-year process. Year one, you're bad but gritty, have grit, right? Year two, you need to be feisty. You don't need to make the playoffs, but you need to be a team that's winning 6, 7, 8 games, and ideally more like 7 or 8 games, and
not getting blown out.
And you're in the conversation, like where somewhere around week 10 or 11 or 12, they're talking about you as a team. Oh, are they gonna make the playoffs? You don't necessarily have to get there, but you have to be feisty, right? Like that. Year three is when you have to make the playoffs, I think, in a standard rebuild. Now, if you can exceed that, that's great. David McNiner saying year three is when Kyle Shanahan lost his first Super Bowl as head coach, 2019. Ideally, year three is a teller. So sometimes you exceed that. I mean, Lions certainly did really well, but I think that's kind of what you're looking at. Dana says a B-. I would have gone a few different names, priority order, but overall, I think everyone here makes the roster except maybe Jefferson. Haven't watched any of his film, so. Okay. No, I think, but like I said, I think you got an idea what our needs are, just a few things a little bit differently. Dakota, thanks for being here. How you doing today? Do you see I saw you send a number of different mock drafts. I just used the first one that you sent, but hope you're doing well.
Wait, one last joke.
Yeah. Oh,
the Cardinals need to draft a new social media team.
They've been a little up or down. Yeah. The season before when they tried having Bird City as the new hashtag, and fans rejected that out of hand. I think God bless them. I think someone thought that would be a good idea and got so much flack, and they moved it back to Bird Gang or Red Sea or something. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, another thing people forget, Cardinals run game was top 5 in the league. Yeah, really good. All right, so no, overall good. So all right, now it's my turn.
Yeah.
Now, every mock draft I do, I try to kind of I try to include the player I highlight. So you're going to see Isaac Rendo.
Yep.
And I also try to try different looks, different themes. So every week I do a little bit different and try how different things look. So here's what I got this week. I stuck at 4 with Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yep.
But I traded up to pick 18 to get Jared Verse. So really kind of what I did is I monitored the draft, and I'm basically there's there's the edge rusher from Alabama and then Jared Verse, the 2 top edge rushers. And when one of them goes, I step in and trade in so I don't miss out on the other one, right? So I want to get one of those 2. So Jared Verse was the one I ended up getting at 18. And then I think I traded back from 35 to kind of get some extra draft capital, but I still managed to get Khalid McKinstry, one of the top cornerbacks in the second round, pick 39. And then I tried something a little bit different here. I went with another receiver early. I've been going wide receiver late. Like I've been going Marvin Harrison Jr. or Rome Odunze in the first round, and then picking a second receiver later because I could see them doing that. It could use some help. They need a couple receivers. But Devontae Walker is a speedy receiver.
Yeah.
And I decided, you know what? They need receiving help, and I could see them just saying, screw it. Let's get a receiver day 1 and a receiver day 2. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is fast and big. He's just, he's everything. And that's great. But there are other receivers on their roster. They've got Michael Wilson, who's more of a big, not speedy, but is a big body receiver. He's a nice third down kind of possession receiver, does some nice things. You've got Greg Dortch, who's shifty as a slot. But they don't, with Hollywood Brown and Rondale Moore gone, they don't have a true, take the top off the defense, kind of run a go route kind of receiver. Harrison can do that, but I like having a guy, and I've talked about this in my streams before, so folks have probably heard this. Maybe I'm a broken record, but Walker is a guy that could be that. He's a speedster. So I went with another receiver in the third round to get them someone to take the top off the defense, while Marvin Harrison Jr. and Greg Dortch and Trey McBride are working underneath. And Seth Hensing, not a Des fan, arm catcher. I get that. Here's the thing with that, and I've said this before. If you have someone who is running deep, going deep to take the top off the defense, even if they don't have great hands, the safeties aren't going to give them a free release. They have to play that like Tutu Atwell. He's small. I didn't love the draft pick when you took him, and he hasn't become an impact player, but there's a role a guy like that will play in your offense where they will run deep. And I tell you, if he has the worst hands of the league, the safeties aren't going to just let him go because you can't let that guy go. Even if, and I think this is a thing people miss about that take the top off the defense kind of player. If you get him out there, and even if they don't have great hands, if you use them and run them deep, the defense has to do something. And instead of saying Isabel 2.0, Isabel, they didn't get him on the field. There's a number of reasons for that. They had other people they were using in that role when they had Isabella. So even if he's not a great catcher, he can still have a role that's valuable. But if they can develop him, and he can become something more, that's even great. So I went with that this time. Then I went Austin Booker, an edge rusher, doubling up on edge. I think, he's an interesting player. Then I went in the fourth round, Dadrian Taylor Demerson, a safety out of Texas Tech. I've talked about how I think they could use a third safety to develop. Then I went with the same tight end you did, Cade Stover, nice kind of backup for McBride to kind of develop. I got a little bit of a trade in there just to move around a little bit. Then I got Isaac Guerrero, the running back I talked about. I did get an interior defensive lineman, Christian Boyd out of Northern Iowa. A lot of people like him as a day 3 sort of sleeper. And then I went with a tackle. I mentioned that in response to your mock draft, that I think tackle on day 3 is more likely. So I went with Walter Rouse out of Oklahoma, a guy they could develop as either a swing tackle or a future right tackle. And then I did go with, now I went with another cornerback in round 5. The almighty chart says that they like to go cornerback in round 2, but also later as well. So went with another guy there. And then I went with one of the more athletic linebackers that was still on the board in round 7, just to kind of some depth. So that's what I got. Robert Moore, yeah, he's also the whole hands thing. I've already kind of addressed that. Sounds like people aren't loving the wide receiver round 3. That's fine. And like I said, I do part of why I do with these mock drafts is to try different looks. And that wide receiver in round 3 was a different look there. So I don't know if that's what they'll do, but I do think that if they get a second wide receiver, it needs to be a speedster. So if you've got another speedster who you think is still there at pick 66, who you think is as fast, then go for. Oh man, Dana,
Dana coming in with the deep plus.
Dana, you're killing me. Come on, a D plus, man. You like TJ Tampa more than Kool-Aid? Okay, that's fine. Walker's a bad route runner. All speed, no hands. Okay, so we're going to save you. A D plus doesn't save me, Dana. D plus doesn't save me. I tease. That's not a no. There's no. Ow. I need to watch more Wonderful Game film. Okay, but not. Oh man, this is what you. Yeah, right. Tough crowd.
Hey, if you're gonna have a mock draft Monday show every week, you're gonna
right. You can't please everyone. No. I'm deep. You cut me deep, Danny. You cut me deep. Lance likes it. Thank you, Lance. Good draft. Just a lot of players. They have room for place. That's a good question, right? Passing with extra credit. Yeah. Oh man. Oh, she preferred yours over mine.
Yeah.
Wow. Dana. I don't even know who you are anymore, Dana. Oh man. All right. Yeah, Steph. Okay. Listen, you know what though? If y'all are entertained, then Dana's always right. If you are all entertained, then I will be the heel here. I will be the foil. If it gets a laugh and y'all entertained, then I will take that. I like my mock draft.
You know what, and Joe, I'll just say this in my response to your mock draft. If this actually happened, Cardinals fans would be losing their mind for what happened in the first round alone.
Right? Jared Verse and Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah.
No, what is viewed as 2 day 1 high caliber starters.
Mm-hmm.
I think regardless of what would happen the rest of the draft, Cardinals fans would be like, crushed it. So I think the top of the draft, you did really good. Kool-Aid, it's interesting. I have some people that light up my comment sections or they talk about him on Twitter and they're like, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, right? Like we need and obviously cool name, especially for a corner.
Right.
But he seems to be quite a people either love Kool-Aid or people are like, buyer beware. I don't want him. I don't see a lot of nuance when it comes to Kool-Aid.
Very polarizing, isn't he?
Yeah. Wide receivers, it's so tough. I think there's so many. I think almost more than any other position, wide receivers have so many variables where you need the right coaching, you need the right system and scheme, you need to have capable quarterback play, not just your starter, but your practice, camp arm quarterbacks that can deliver, high caliber throws. So I think there's that element to it. I think, Joe, I think your heart's in the right place.
Thanks.
You're obviously
bless your heart.
You're trying to fix your favorite team, and I think positionally you definitely and even Dana, would I be so bold to say I think positionally you did address a lot of what the Cardinals need to address. Maybe they didn't. Maybe Dana and company don't specifically, like the players that you drafted for those positions, but you know what? That's the joys of mock draft Mondays, right?
See, first round. So at least she likes my first round.
Okay, there you go.
I think. Golly. All right. Well, listen. This is what we do in our community. So as long as y'all are having fun, I'll take it. Well, thank you all for that, except for Dana. No, just kidding. I appreciate you, Dana. I'm just having fun too.
And I showed up something to prove, saying he it would not shock him to see Cardinals trade up with their first round pick.
Right. Yes, I could see that too.
Especially to the Panthers because they need picks.
Right. Yeah. Dana's not a fan. Need to address defensive interior. See, here's the thing with that. I don't think they're going to. I could be wrong, right? I let the auto draft. Yeah, funny. With all the guys they signed in free agency, I just don't think I could be wrong, but I don't think they're gonna go defensive interior early. I think they've really tried to go with some solid guys, and I think they're gonna go other positions, but we'll see. So I don't know. Yeah. Oh, so Lance saying, so how many players are feasible, acceptable to the draft? That's a good question because and here's one of the things I've kind of read and heard is that because of some things that have happened, some of the sixth and seventh rounders are maybe a little bit kind of not as good as usual. There's a lot of guys that would be undrafted free agents that are going to be taken later. So I think some of those guys in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, particularly 6th and 7th round, are practice squad guys more so than in years past even. So I don't necessarily have a huge problem with if they took all these picked all these players, because I think there's a good chance some will be a practice squad. But I do think we're going to see Monty move around a bit. So we might see them draft fewer, 8 or 9 players. I think is probably a good number. If you drafted 11, that might be a bit much, but but we'll see. Right. Totally. Dana's saying draft whoever you want. Just know I will judge you harshly if they were bad on film. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So here's what we're going to do. Payo is going to hang out. We've got 7 mock drafts that were submitted. So we didn't have a ton, but we're going to go through and Payo's going to hang out. He's having a blast with us, and we're having a blast having him hang out with us. And when we get to these mock drafts, what I'd like you to do, Payo, just so that we don't spend too much time on all of them, just tell me, highlight one pick that you think is interesting, or your favorite pick, or even a pick you don't like. Just for each of these mocks, pick one pick that you want to kind of just speak to, and we'll go with that approach there. Okay.
And I have one thing, because I remember doing this with you last year, and one of my favorite things is seeing which player appears the most in all the mock. That's probably one of my favorite things to do when you do this.
Yeah. So, well, keep track of. That's a good point. I think this year, what often happens is some of the players that I highlight profile often end up getting picked a lot too, because people become familiar. So
they're your friends.
Yeah. Right. I think the center McMahon we might see a lot, but we'll see. All right. So first one up, we've got Dakota Bedard, who has been in the chat. Thanks for submitting mock drafts. So we got Marvin Harrison Jr., of course, Byron Murphy falling to 27. That's really nice. Then the edge, Darius Robinson at 35, cornerback Chris Abrams-Drain out of Missouri. Then we got safety Cole Bishop, linebacker Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Then we've got Kingsley Aguakin, center from Florida, Ladarius Henderson, guard from Michigan, Frank Gore Jr., Southern Miss running back, Brevin Spann, Ford, tight end Minnesota, and Tulia Tagovailoa, quarterback out of Maryland. All right. So what do you think? What stands out to you about this?
I'm just realizing we're going to see a lot of Marvin Harrison Jr. in all these drafts, which rightfully so.
Yeah.
We've talked in detail about him. But I think of this. I love whenever someone drafts a quarterback late. You love seeing those late round flyers, especially with a family relative already in the NFL.
Right.
So that's always exciting. And then I'm gonna go with just seeing I'm always interested where people are picking, corners and safeties, because I've just become so accustomed to the Rams drafting them later that, okay, here you have the Cardinals that kind of more in that mid-range addressing that, because like I said before, the Cardinals' third down defense needs to improve if they're going to do anything. So those are kind of the picks that stuck out to me.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of nice picks Dakota's got here. Like Murphy falling 27 that'd be a dream. I like Darius Robinson 35. That's kind of nice. So overall, I think there's a lot of good picks here. So Robert Moore saying safety too high. No need another backup quarterback. First round pick, solid grade B. Okay. Ian Color likes Trotter at 90 a lot. Frank Gore Jr. I feel old, right? Yeah, right. I remember when Frank Gore came to the league, right? Yeah. So all right. So awesome. Nice job. I think you did a good job, Dakota. And man, nice picks fell to you. So awesome. Next up we have Robert Moore.
Ooh,
Mr. Bobby Moore, who is in the chat. So he's got to trade back. So, some people going to have some feelings and some thoughts, right? Did not go with Marvin Harrison or Rome Odunze, right? So we got Byron Murphy, defensive line at pick 11 with a trade back. Then got a part of that trade. We got Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver, speedy receiver out of Texas. So we went with a receiver there. Then we went Chop Robinson, edge. And at 27, then interior offensive line Cooper Beebe at 49. I'm just going to tell you, the almighty chart says no, heretic. Linebacker Junior Colson, then receiver Jermaine Burton. Then Kyrie Jackson. I've already sold it. That's the pick I really like at 80. We'll talk about that. Ben Sinnott, the tight end, like that. Braylon Allen, running back. Bo Limmer at center at 115. Then James Williams, safety. Jarian Jones, cornerback, more of a slot cornerback. Then Logan Lee, defensive line out of Iowa. So what pick stands out to you?
Ooh, just starting off hot with those trades. That's exciting. But I think out of this, just Byron Murphy. Again, we see that name here at 11. I think that's a good pick. Like if you get that, you're not complaining. You know what? I'm interested in who these late round running backs are now. Right? Yeah. That's a new name for me, Braylon Allen.
He's huge, but I think if he's really big, really tall and big, but if you read his kind of scouting report, there's maybe some vision stuff that needs work, but he's a big power back. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, for me, Kyrie Jackson again, and I'm a big fan of the work that the Bootleg podcast, Brett Coleman and AJ Snyder do. That's the guy they love, the cornerback out of Oregon. Like that's to me probably if you're looking for a cornerback that's like a day two, maybe even a little bit later day two potentially. That's the guy I think to look at. Dana's saying, so Braylon Allen is 240-ish, runs a 4.5 strong, right? Mizaki Felix likes it, right? So gets an A, nearly perfect, right? Can't draft more than one K-State player in one draft. Yeah, there's a limit there, yeah. So I like that. I tell you, Cooper Beebe has been very popular with a lot of people, but and again, I lean a lot on the scouting reports. I don't watch tape like Dana does, so I definitely respect what she has to say about things. But like a lot of stuff I've read about him is he's more in a man gap scheme, not as athletic for like a wide zone scheme. That's why I've kind of moved away from him as a potential pick. But I know he's often there and he's grades very highly. Something to prove, likes Kyrie Jackson, also hopes that the Rams gets it. Yeah. All right. So yeah, Robert, good job overall. I think I respect you kind of taking the risk to trade back and not get one of the receivers everybody likes and going a little bit later with receiver.
I honestly think Cardinals fans will be irate if that happened.
I think so too. I think I think there's a huge amount of Cardinals fans that will be upset if we don't get Marvin Harrison Jr. And then another contingent that will be upset if we pass on him and don't get Roma Dunze, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Michael Richards, C+. Yeah. Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of chop. Yeah. Robinson. Dana saying AD and Boone would be a good combo. Oh, Ian's mid draft. Oof. Yeah. So, yeah. All right. Getting bored with I feel that getting with Marvin Harrison so much.
That's fair. That's fair take, Robert. Yeah.
Absolutely, Robert. I'm like you in that regard that I like to try different looks just to see what it's like. So I don't hate that. So I appreciate you trying something different and bringing it to the table. So
spice it up.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Next up, Chris Young, who I know is in the chat. So he got a little bit of a trade back here to 6. Roma Dunze there. Dallas Turner at 20. I love that. Cooper DeJean's safety listed here, but he's really going to probably be a cornerback, probably. Could be either, but I think he'll probably be cornerback. Junior Colson, linebacker, 66. Christian Mahogany, guard at Boston College. Braylon Allen, the running back that we talked about before. Mason McCormick, guard out of South Dakota State. Jacob Coing, receiver out of Arizona. Keaton Oladapo, safety of Oregon State. And then tight end AJ Barner. All right, so what's the pick that you noticed in this one?
Oh, here we're seeing back-to-back mock drafts. Braylon Allen showing up there in the middle. Exciting. You know what? This, again, from a lot of these names are newer to me. Mm-hmm. I like where Chris Young is going with this. It helps. You got to help Kyler out. So getting him a wide receiver early, and it wasn't Marvin Harrison Jr. So points for a not the norm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think that a guy like Dallas Turner, you get excited about him because that's going to help with that pass rush, and maybe the defense can get off the field on third down after all.
Right. No K-State players, so it's a D. Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Dallas Turner won't last. I agree, he won't last till 20. So that's an amazing pick to get him there. He won't last there. But yeah, love that. Not a fan of a trade back losing Marvin Harrison Jr. Like I've said before, I feel that, but I'm okay if we get Roma Dunze. But yeah. So yeah, I love the Dallas Turner being there 20 is not realistic, but I love that. Mason McCormick I love that pick. He's a guy I highlighted, profiled, and I think he's just he's that guard that I really hope we end up grabbing. I don't like getting two guards, Mahogany and McCormick. I don't think we're going to go with two of them, with having signed some guys and some guys that we're developing, but yeah, I don't know. Dennis saying DeJohn is a cornerback. Yeah, I need to watch more of Colson. McCormick might have to be a bit earlier, but he's going to be solid. Yeah, I think McCormick probably would have to be earlier as well. Yeah. So yeah. All right. So next up, we've got O-Cards. Got some trades a little bit later. Traded back up. Oh, if Dana gave me a D+, she's going to hate this. Whoa. She's going to hate that O-Cards traded up to get Kool-Aid McKinstry. So O-Cards, watch out for Dana. She's going to roast you for this one. But okay, Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4, love it. Jerzon Noon at 27, love it. Even though I don't think they're going into your defensive line that high. Because of the free agents, if they manage to pull that off, I love that. Kool-Aid McKinstry, I like him. I think, but trading up for him, I don't know that you have to do that. Here's what I would say. There are a number of good cornerbacks potentially that are in that early second round. So I don't think you have to trade up to get a cornerback. I think you can sit and get one at 35. It might not be Kool-Aid McKinstry, but there's a number of guys I'd feel comfortable with there. So for me, I'm not. But Peyton Wilson, very athletic linebacker, 66. Brandon Dorless, they listed him at edge. He's more of an interior defensive line. He moves around. He's not a true outside edge, but he kind of moves all around the line. Brendan Rice, wide receiver at 90. Mason McCormick, Kyrie Jackson, the cornerback. Garrett Greenfield, offensive tackle of South Dakota State. We got 2 South Dakota State players here. Gabe Hall, D-line for Baylor. Jalix Hunt from Edge from Houston Baptist, going really small school, and Dominic Captain, safety out of Washington. All right, what stands out to you, Payo?
A couple of years ago, I remember the Minnesota Vikings had 3 first-round picks, and everyone was like, "They won the draft! They won the draft!" And this would be an exciting draft for Cardinals fans. Like obviously you're getting Marvin Harrison Jr., but plus just doing the flashy trades that they did, and still coming away with 3 first-round picks. And the nice thing about that is if you hit on all 3 of those picks, they all have that beautiful little 5th-year option that's honestly that's a way of building a core roster, right? And so if you truly believe you're getting your glue guys there. So that's kind of what sticks out to me on this one. The other thing that sticks out is no running back in this mock draft. I think that's our first mock draft today that didn't have a running back in it. So interesting.
That is kind of interesting. Yeah. Darwin's Raven saying, I wouldn't be surprised if Wilson's gone by 6-6. I could see that too. I mean, he's so athletic, but then Dana's talking about his medicals are kind of, a concern, right? Edgerrin Cooper might be the safer pick, if nothing else, right? Paul G likes Wilson, great deal underrated. I think a lot of people really do. Mazaki Felix, I think all this receivers talk early is overrated for a team that wants to run the ball majority of the time and occasionally throws via play action. Yeah, I mean, I think we need we need a receiver. Absolutely. And I get that this is going to be a run heavy team, but Michael Wilson is our number 1 receiver, and I like him, but it's Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, who I both like, but you don't want that as your number 1 and 2 receiver. At best, you want that number 2 and 3. Yeah. You need a guy ahead of them. And I get that, also that, McBride is part of that equation, but I normally wouldn't be all about receiver this early, but as few receivers as they have on the roster, I think they need to. So that's me, but yeah. Let's see, a couple of thoughts. Robert saying solid draft, but no running back grade B because Cloyd was drafted. You probably wouldn't went running back at 115. Gabe Hall is a good late pickup, she says here. Couple people like Dorless. Dana's saying she likes Dorless. She liked higher than the consensus. Let's see, Michael Richards says I like Dorless. So there's a lot of nice, and he's a good player. I like Dorless as well. Absolutely. So for me, it's like I said, I'm just because of all the needs they have and what they did in free agency. I'm really just thinking 1 interior defensive lineman at the most. That's my thoughts. But yeah. Let's see. All right. So Darwin Servant saying, I'd go elsewhere. I like depth at defensive line deep in this draft. You could nab another huge impact player. I don't mind going 1 defensive lineman. In fact, I probably would like that. I just, again, with all the guys they signed, I think, but that's me, right? Lance saying sent link entry. Check it out. I'll look it on Twitter. Unfortunately, it's too late to get it into the show, but I'll definitely check it out. All right. Next up, Red Sea. He's got some trade stuff going on here.
What is going on here?
Yeah. So he traded back and then he traded up again, which is what Monty did last year, right? He traded back and then up, right? That's for the Paris Johnson Jr. So I like it. Traded back and then up again to get Roma Dunze. And he, in that whole process, got another 1st-round pick in here. Used on Cloyd McKinstry. I know we've talked about that, so people might not love that. But then Jerzon Newton. So it's a lot like the last one. It's just in reverse the order, right?
Yeah.
Except the last one had Marvin Harrison Jr. So, but then got Edgerrin Cooper, who we were just talking about, the linebacker. Then Adisa Isaac, edge from Penn State. So got an edge there. Then Blake Fisher, offensive tackle for Notre Dame. Christian Mahogany. Audric Estime, running back out of Notre Dame. Jacob Coing, wide receiver, Arizona. Nehemiah Pritchett, cornerback, Auburn. Malik Mustafa, safety, Wake Forest. And then Christian Boyd, defensive line, Northern Iowa. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm just looking over this. It'd be fun. It'd be fun if it worked out this way. And I think the more I'm talking about the Cardinals, again, I do not follow the Cardinals.
You're going to become a fan?
No.
Oh no! Oh,
you know what? I will say this: I do like when the Rams play the Cardinals.
I bet you do. I bet you do.
It's always a good week. It's
Mm-hmm.
I know Kyron Williams. He loves playing.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, I know you guys will miss Aaron Donald. I'll miss seeing Aaron Donald play the Cardinals. Sorry. I'm curious about just kind of the rationale for there's a lot of secondary in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that's a bad thing, but maybe if you're going to draft 3 secondary players in the corners and the safeties, maybe prioritizing that a little bit earlier than in the later rounds if it is such a need. But that's kind of what jumps out to me first thoughts here. And another new running back that I'm going to have to look up highlights for here.
Yeah, for sure. A couple comments. Man, the Cardinals must love Jerzon. Well, I'll say we've had him show up in more mock drafts today than we normally do. Darwin's Raven. Like I like him. I think he's one of the better defensive line. I think before they signed all the free agents, they signed a defensive line. You saw a lot of people hoping we'd get him there, like late first round. But this is more. He's been taken more tonight than in previous weeks. I will say that. So I think this maybe a little bit of an anomaly, but I don't know. But yeah, Christian Boyd, that's a guy I also like as well. I think he's like shown as a day 3 pick because it's a smaller school. But I'm with you on that one. Estimate ran 4.7 the combine. Pro day 40 was 4.54, which is fine. If you run 4.54, you're fine as a running back, especially if you're bigger. Seth Henn loves it, right? Robert Moore isn't Mahogany Racket. Yeah, he was right guard in college. He's much more of a run blocker than pass blocker, so he needs some work. Definitely a guard, it seems like only. So, yeah. Let's see. Mazaki Felix saying, other than Red Sea trading back, not a bad draft. Be a running back. He took one of 3 physical traits. Bad about getting drafted that high. Okay. Steph Henson, several better cornerbacks than Kool-Aid, in my opinion. Isaac's another edge you need to watch more of. Yeah. Robert gives it a B+. Ian Keller loves it. Right. Mikey saying, keep smiling, Payo. Your dominance over the Cardinals coming in handy. That's right.
I will keep smiling, Mikey.
Yeah. Newton is a run stuff with pass rush upside. He throws people. And that's the thing. Like with interior defensive line, you can find run stoppers and you can find guys who can be pass rushers. If you're going one over the other, you usually go pass rusher. But if you can find a guy who can do both, then they get drafted high. And that's kind of the deal there, right? Paul runs a Cardinals forum, and their forum big board has Newton much higher than 27, like 10 to 15 range. Yeah. So like I love the Christian Boyd pick for sure. I understand. I like Kool-Aid McKinstry, but I understand not wanting to take him at 23. I've taken him in the second round usually if I'm, I will say like the almighty chart also the cornerback in the second round is a big spot for the kind of that rant or the Patriots kind of history. So they have taken first round, but you see, like, I know it's a little hard to see, but like second round is really the sweet spot for cornerbacks for the Patriots where money comes from. So I lean towards there more. And I know there's guys like TJ Tampa that people like a little bit better there as well. Love the Edgerrin. I like taking a linebacker on day 2 for this team. So Edgerrin Cooper, I really like that. So yeah, I think there's some nice picks here though. Next up, we have Mr. Money Minetti. I don't know if he's been in the chat, but he's very active in the Discord. So he's traded back and still got Marvin Harrison.
Wow. Cardinals fans be going drafting
right
there.
That would be amazing. Get some draft capital and still get him.
That's like, honestly,
I don't think it's happening, but
like, think of it. If that happened, they traded from 4 to 6 and we're like, oh yeah, we're so confident we're still getting him. But like for those 2 picks, Cardinals fans would be losing their mind.
Right. Absolutely. I don't think you can get Marvin Harrison Jr. any later than 5, in my opinion. I think the latest he's going to go in real life draft is 5th if Cardinals trade out. But that would be amazing. And then they get Byron Murphy at 27. Wow. Right. And then Darius Robinson, edge out of Missouri. So you got an edge at 2nd round, guy with some nice upside. Love it. Xavier Legette, the receiver out of South Carolina at 47. Love that. Junior Colson, linebacker. Trey Benson, really athletic running back. Javon Bullard, safety out of Georgia. I really like him as kind of that slot / safety guy that, I think they should look to get. I profiled him earlier. Curran, I'm not going to even try to pronounce that last name, out of Yale, tackle. Nice player there. Cam Hart, cornerback in Notre Dame. Christian Boyd, interior defensive line out of Northern Iowa. Love that. Gadlin out of Liberty, another interior offensive lineman. Brevin Spanford, tight end in Minnesota, and Joshua Carty, kicker out of Stanford. We saw him on yours. So what are you seeing here that you find interesting?
I say stay away from any chance the Rams have to get better at kicker. So stay away. No,
you can't have him. He's ours.
Yeah, no. We're desperate. Anyway, no, I like this. Again, we're starting to see Darius. I think we've seen him on 3 or 4 mock drafts.
Yeah,
Darius Robinson here on the edge. So that's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that what you pulled off here and have it fall that way is amazing. Like those, I really like this draft. Let's see, a couple people saying, let's see, that's a great draft. We should be so lucky. My favorite so far. I don't see Murphy falling for 7 yet. Harbaugh prefers Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. That's interesting. Okay. Legette worries me. The drop's not as bad as Brian Thomas Jr.'s 30% drop right now. Okay. Yeah, I like this draft a bunch. Money, Legette will be gone by 47. Yeah. I love it. I think this is a really great draft. I think Legette is an interesting story, kind of. So I actually like him, but I get the concerns. Christian Boyd, we talked about him. So yeah, nice mock here. I don't think it's going to happen, but yeah. All right. Gazornik, Brian. I haven't seen him in the chat. He'll probably watch this later, but he's got Marvin Harrison, and then he did a trade up to get Byron Murphy, right? Okay. So we like that. But then center Jackson Powergen, love the player, but we all know the almighty chart says interior offensive line not before round 3. So you have defiled the chart. You are now a blasphemer, and that is sacrilege. But so center Power Johnson, pick 35. Devondre Sweat, big interior defensive line. So you got both those Texas interior defensive linemen. And then we got Kyrie Jackson, the cornerback we talked about, Christian Mahogany. To be fair, he fell at 35. That's also, that's true. Like you wouldn't expect to see him there. Who knows? Maybe they jump on, if he falls that far, maybe they jump on that, right? Braylon Allen, running back, we talked about him earlier. Down Holker, tight end out of Colorado State to back up another Colorado State, Trey McBride. Solomon Byrd, edge out of USC, and then Trey Taylor, safety out of Air Force. All right, what do you think?
Yeah, interesting mock draft here. I love seeing the players that we're seeing again, and the Kyrie Jackson as a corner in the 3rd. Like we've seen that a couple times today. Mm-hmm. That's exciting to see. And obviously, you're going to get excited that anytime you trade up into the 1st round to get a player that like Byron Murphy. So yeah, I think great job.
Yeah. I mean, I love the Kyrie Jackson pick there. I love getting Murphy there. That's great. Right. So there's a lot of nice players in here. I would do some things different. I've been getting, Kyrie Jackson, and Byron Murphy and Marvin Harrison. You tell me we get those 3 in the draft, I'd be pretty freaking happy. Yeah. Right. So yeah. Steph Henson, get rid of the chart. We will not get rid of the chart. The chart is dogma. It is doctrine. It is divine. saying Brevin Spanford looks like a world-class blocker in some films and others isn't going to be in the NFL for long. Interesting. Yeah. So yeah. Overall, so Robert saying I'd rather take Parasol than Wilson. Okay. Anyone have Sweat's weight in Texas Pro Day? I don't know because he's a big dude. That's one of the questions with him. So for sure. So all right. Derwin's Ravenstein, don't take interior offense line for third. Tyler Linderbaum, we're happy with it. We were happy with So and just if you're not familiar, Derwin's Raven, why I say that, I am not saying that as a kind of roster building philosophy that I think you should never go against. I did a video, and the almighty chart is kind of a joke, but it's kind of, so I did a video last year when Monty Ossenfort, new general manager, was hired. We didn't know what he was going to do in terms of how he'd approach a draft. So I did a video looking at the draft strategies of the Patriots and the Titans when he worked in their front offices, with that rationale being, if we don't know what he's going to do, let's look at the places he kind of worked at and figured their philosophies would inform what he does. And as it turned out, my draft kind of strategy chart that we're kind of joking about, he actually stuck to it last year. So I get that you're happy with Tyler Linderbaum, and I'm not challenging that at all, right? I get that. I'm not saying you can never take into your offensive line earlier than that. Just when I say the chart, it's more me attempting to predict what Monty Ossenfort is going to do. So when I look at a mock draft and say, don't take interior offensive lineman before round 3, it's not because it's a bad idea. It's because if we're trying to predict what the Cardinals are going to do, it's less likely they're going to do that. Now watch Monty Ossenfort do that this year, and then my chart, right? So that, just to clarify that, right? Yeah. Your chart, I mean, it's if you understand what the chart is showing it's by round what positions they typically take, right? So it doesn't have trades. That's not really kind of what we're looking at there. Yeah. Think there used to be a lot of guards picked early and bust rate was high. Yeah. I mean, can be. Yeah. I'm just messing with you. Totally get the chart on. Okay. Yeah. Oh, well, thanks. Yeah. But I will say though, I think there's something to that, like, because you can have they've had some success with the Patriots taking that approach, but yeah. Elon saying odds of us not drafting a wide receiver in the first round would break heart to miss out on Dunze, Harrison, regardless of extra picks. Yeah. I definitely want to get one of those two guys. Right.
And like, just on that, like, it's fun. It's cool when you can get extra picks. Mm-hmm. At some point you actually have to nail the picks that, like whether it's the first round or the 5th round, you got to draft good players.
Yeah. Now I will say with the Patriots kind of philosophy, they've really prioritized 2nd round picks. There's a lot of value there. So they really like doing that. But like, if it's me, I'm making sure I get out of the first round with Harrison or Dunze, but that pick 27, I don't mind trading back if you want to get some additional day 2 picks and future picks. I like the idea of priming the pump every year, doing at least one trade back where you get a pick on ideally day 2 of the next year, right? That's one of the reasons we're sitting here with an extra 1st round and an extra 3rd round pick right this year. We're loving having that, but you have to do some trading backs to get that, right? So,
well, and the other thing, and like, again, the Rams, they've capitalized on that for the past 6 years, and the other part of that is getting the comp pick formula that the Rams and a lot of other teams have been utilizing when players leave via free agency, right?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Like the comp pick formula.
Oh, yeah.
Where like, if you have players that leave via free agency, you get additional, compensation picks in there. And that's how, like, the Rams, even though they haven't had a 1st round pick since 2016, they've had a lot of picks. And it's often because each year they have 2 or 3 comp picks almost every year.
Yeah, the compensatory system, now some people, it's a little tricky, but it all has to do with, like, you have to lose more players in free agency than you sign, and it has to be players where their contract came to an end. Like, it can't be players you release. and it's tricky because there's no guarantee you're going to get them. They kind of line up the players you signed and the players that you lost, and there's only so many of them. So, you have like we didn't get any this year, right? But we got some the last season. So if you consistently draft well, but you can't so well that you can't keep all your players, and you let them move on, you do that. Like the Ravens do that probably better than anyone. Yeah. Consistently. They do it really well. They draft their players, they keep them. Maybe they sign some of them to a second contract, but they eventually let them walk, especially an edge rusher, because they've got more guys coming up and they get compensatory picks all the time. Right. So yeah. So that is a strategy though. It's a good strategy if you can do it right. So, but you don't want to lean too heavily on that, because I mean, it's good to have that, but like if you draft guys that are really good, you want to sign them and
no. Yeah. Ideally, you're drafting players that are going to get second, maybe third contracts with your team, right?
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. And by the way, that is the end of our mock drafts.
Oh, no way.
We've gotten through. We didn't have nearly as many as we usually do, so we still went an hour and 45 minutes because we're having so much fun because hanging out with Zach Payo. So. Yeah, really great conversation. A lot of great questions and comments. And man, it's always fun having you with us. Payo, why don't you tell the folks where they can find you and what they can expect from you and anything else you want to kind of promote and share before we get out of here?
Yeah, thanks. You can find me Payo Time, just like what it says right here. If you put that on YouTube, I'm the first channel that comes up. I talk mainly pretty much exclusively about the Rams. Here and there, there's like, a Cardinal video or like don't subscribe to me for Cardinals content. You subscribe to Joe for that. I do like news and just general, like I enjoy discussion, hearing opinions that are unlike my own. I love nuance, especially when it comes to football. I like to have my hand at try my hand at some skits. I think I'm funny. Some other people might think I'm funny. I don't know. And so it's always fun trying skits out. I host watch parties for each and every Rams game. That's one of my favorite things I do on my channel, and have a pretty awesome community doing that. Something that's new coming up. My channel is going to be self-sponsored by my own travel agency, Payo Travel Time. And that's launching within the next couple of weeks. And so if you're looking for a good travel agent to plan a Disney, Universal, or theme park or cruise vacation, I would love to be your travel agent. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, getting a lot of love for you, Payo. I know everyone appreciates you. You've been on here a number of times. Thanks for pulling up, Payo. When are you moving to Arizona? Right. Thank you, Brian. Everyone showed just some love. Thank you so much. Yeah, please like the video. Dana saying thanks for another great show. Thank you, Dana. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us. Chillest Rams fan, I know.
Oh, thanks.
People say I'm funny looking. Yeah, thanks for your input, Payo. Payo's one of the good guys. I mean, there's a lot of good guys in this space, and Payo's one of the best. I just always enjoy hanging out. Thank you, Cuts Nasty, for joining as a channel member. So thanks for being with us. We're going to get out of here. I'm going to put up the channel member shout outs and get the theme song, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Hey, yo, it's Joe Mo. He's the host of Mock Draft Monday on the Cardinals show. So join the live, hit like and subscribe. Enjoy the podcast tonight. Enjoy the podcast tonight.